Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special post-WWDC keynote live broadcast from San Francisco. My name is Tim Stevens. I'm the editor-in-chief of Engadget.
And I'm Darren Murph, managing editor and long-suffering Apple fan.
And you're like a foot taller than me today.
Hey, look, I watched that keynote. I grew a few inches. Seven.
How could you not? A very inspiring keynote.
Inches. It was inspiring. Almost too inspiring at some points.
It was a keynote that really focused on Apple's interest in purity of design and their interest in touching people's lives. That was definitely the opening message and something that they ended on as well. And it'll be something highlighted in a new commercial, actually, that's launching tonight, which is something to look forward to, I suppose. But we didn't quite get the list of hardware that we were expecting. It was a list that was shorter than we were hoping for by a pretty good margin.
It was shorter. However, one of the wild cards being the Mac Pro did make an appearance.
And quite an appearance.
So, yeah, I mean, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, let's talk about the MacBook Pro.
That was the surprise of the show.
Completely, wholly redesigned. I mean, the Mac Pro is now it looks like a PC. I mean, it's aluminum. It's got holes in it. That cheese-grated design. It looks nice, but it still looks like a PC. The new one doesn't really look like a PC anymore.
No, it doesn't. And for all the things I was wrong about in the pre-show, one thing I did get right is if they introduce a new Mac Pro, they have to redesign it.
They totally did.
So they did. So
and it's now a cylindrical design, which is wholly different than what we've seen before. And the very interesting thing is that the heat pipe port is effectively in the middle. So all the heat from all the disparate devices scattered around through this cylinder is all channeled through the middle, and then there's an airflow that goes up from below to keep everything nice and cool. It's a really interesting new design, something we haven't seen before, and it looks amazing. It's a dark black gray, not quite black, but a gray. Yeah. It's made of aluminum. It's heavy. It has a total premium feel, and the specs are unbelievable. We didn't get the full spec list, but what we got was absolutely unreal.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen this, we actually have an eyes on post on the site with it. It is. For a workstation, it's the nicest looking workstation.
It's not something you're going to want to put on the floor and kick your feet up on.
And it should be noted, this isn't, I mean, they're going to call it a desktop, but it's definitely a workstation. It comes standard with 2 FirePro GPUs. So I don't even know if you'll be able to get an optional GPU that would be good for gaming. FirePros aren't exactly good for gamers. I mean, this is purely for work, for design. It comes with error-correcting RAM, very expensive, not very useful for consumers. It's definitely a pro-grade machine, but it looks amazing, and it could be maybe they'll make a consumerized version of it. I mean, look, it's like the modern-day Cube in a way. It's just a radical departure from any other desktop that we've seen in the workstation world. You can spin it around to access the ports. They light up, so you can see what you're doing.
Very Tron-like effect.
Yeah, I mean, there's a carry handle on the top. I don't know how expandable it's going to be. That was a huge issue with the Cube.
Right, and I think that's going to be an issue here because now, of course, when you're talking about things that are cylindrical, most computer components are not cylindrical, so that may be a bit of a challenge. But to address that, they introduced the new Thunderbolt 2 standard, which is quite a bit quicker than before, up to 6 devices tethered. How many gigabits was it per second? 3 gigabits, was it? I can't remember that.
It was 10 times faster.
Perhaps check Engadget.com for the full specs.
It's pretty quick.
Stop spewing numbers. But the idea is basically that you'll be able to use external storage and external devices for a lot of what you need to do. And there were a ton of 4 USB 3. I think it was 6 Thunderbolt 2 ports.
6 of those.
Dual Ethernet. A huge amount of ports in the back. So internal expansion, not so much.
Full-size HDMI, standard. That's an interesting. They didn't go with DisplayPort. I found that interesting that they don't have a DisplayPort on there. Yeah. It's just HDMI. Is that the only video output?
Well, the Thunderbolt 2 as well.
Oh, okay, it operates as
that. But they did mention that it'll do 4K displays, which makes me wonder how long is it until we have a 4K Cinnamon display?
Oh, they've got to be working on it. Look, if Asus had one out at Computex, Apple has. I mean, these panel makers they all come from the same few companies. So whoever Asus is buying it from, Apple knows their number. They'll put one out. Look, I think they have to.
There's multiple numbers about them, probably.
Yeah, they have to put out a new display that's black to match it, a new keyboard and mouse that's black to match it. Also, the fact that they chose glossy black instead of charcoal, whatever, instead of anything else,
matte aluminum or anything,
yeah, isn't it? It's interesting. I mean, there was a black MacBook for a while, and they kind of went away from that. I don't know if they're
black iPhone as well, which is a matte device with black.
Yeah.
It's still anodized aluminum, but it is a much more gloss finish than we've seen in the past. Maybe they're just not worried about durability because it's going to be sitting on your desk. In theory, scratches will be less of an issue. In theory, depends on what's happening on your desk. Lots of things happen on my desk, so I might want the matte option.
I will say, in closing about the Mac Pro, it's going to be out later this year. No price, but something that comes with dual GPUs. It's going to be unaffordable. It's not going to be a consumer device.
We're talking
as much as
4K to start, probably.
I mean, I'd say $29.99 as a hopeful,
for bare bones.
Hopeful bottom line. Yeah, I mean, it won't be a consumer machine, but it'll look good. So maybe that design will bleed over into other things.
And it was interesting that this was just a preview, as they call it, basically not a full unveiling of the device. So it's just. And it's something that they felt that they needed to show us, and certainly it's something that developers got very excited about, but not something that they were formally unveiling at this point.
Maybe they'll make the Mac Mini look like that and make me real happy.
That'd be pretty cool.
Just throwing that out there.
But that definitely looked very good. The hardware will be the new MacBook Air, which is basically the same as the old MacBook Air. The one sole difference is the new Haswell CPU inside, which promises much, much, much better battery life. They said up to 12 hours of battery life on the 13-inch MacBook Air, which is pretty phenomenal.
So here's my question with that, though. One of the big aspects, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, of OS X Mavericks, one of the major aspects of that was its ability to nap apps and essentially squeeze more battery life out of any machine that's running it because it intelligently runs the applications that are currently in use. So is this 12 hours based on the version of OS X that ships on it or the one that's coming?
That's a very good question, Mr. Murph.
So because if it can get 12 hours today, imagine what it'll get when you put Mavericks on it.
I think it's got to be 12 hours today because that laptop is available now today, and they're advertising that number today. So it's got to be 12 hours now, and then even better maybe with Mavericks.
That's
Trust us, we'll be definitely testing that out to let you know how we do, because we do happen to have one. Unfortunately, I don't have it right now. Somebody else is having the honor of flying with it.
Look, man, it got stolen. It's the streets.
It doesn't take
streets,
long,
man.
especially here in San Francisco. But that's a nice improvement. Battery life has definitely been, it's been good for the Air. Now it's going to be fantastic. But that, of course, leaves the question, how great would battery life be on a Retina Pro if indeed we had one today, and we don't have one because they didn't announce a new one, very sadly.
Yeah, I can't figure out why they're beta testing Haswell on the Air. Just put it in all of them. I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to make the Air stand out today, and then they'll do a simple store update a couple of weeks from now. You just wake up on a Tuesday morning, everything's been refreshed.
That's what I've been wondering, too. Every now and again, they'll throw something out, like the new iPod Touch they launched a couple of weeks back. They just threw it in the store. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we get a call one day about, hey, it's time to get a new MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
We could certainly see that for sure. There is probably a little bit more work entailed in getting the Haswell to work in the Pro. They've got discrete graphics to worry about and some other technologies to worry about, too, which maybe makes it a little bit more complicated, whereas the Air more or less relies on everything that the Haswell system has to offer on its own. But it was disappointing for me to not see a new MacBook Pro, that is, today.
Yeah, I'm happy we saw a new Air, but I'm sad that it doesn't have a Retina display. But I'm happy that they lowered the entry price of the 13.
A little bit.
So but I said that to begin with. If they lower the entry price, it'll make me forgive them for not. So it's all good. Like I said, it's all good.
The 11-inch still starts at $999, but now you get twice the storage, so 1028 gigabytes of storage, which is nice.
128.
128, excuse me.
That would be amazing.
That would be pretty phenomenal.
That would be amazing.
It's quite an STI. And then the base 13-inch is now $1099, which again with a 128 gigabyte, or you can get a 256 gigabyte model if you want to pay some more. And those are again available now if you want to order one. And I kind of do maybe.
I'm probably going to buy the old one at a ridiculously cut rate.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, man, refurb store all day.
The problem is now, of course, there's been a lot of talk about a refreshed 13-inch Pro with Retina, a thinner 13-inch Pro with Retina, and are people going to want to buy a 13-inch Air right now with speculation of a thinner 13-inch Retina just over the horizon?
I think that market is. Like I said, with the lowering the price point, I think they're drawing a more defined line that this is their entry-level machine. Look, Phil even said on stage, the Air is now, even in Apple's mind, this has become their entry notebook for what the experience that they want, even at an entry level, and I think that's what it's becoming. So it started out as just being an incredibly thin that you paid a price premium for. Now it's the entry level that just so happens to be thin.
We also got some new networking hardware today, the new airport.
Yeah, a new time capsule en route and a new airport I guess Extreme.
Yeah, with
new base station.
802.11ac with beamforming technology as well. It's got 4 Ethernet ports on the back, which is a little bit crazy.
Well, I mean, it doubles as a router, hardwired router.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's actually pretty big. It's 6.5 inches tall and about 4 inches wide. So it's roughly the size of the old one or the Apple
Tower.
TV or the Eiffel Tower, but quite a bit taller. It's got room inside for a 2 or 3 terabyte hard drive, so you can do time capsule stuff on there.
Yeah.
Looks nice, but again, it'll take a little bit more room on your shelf. Space on your shelf.
Yeah.
Room in your space.
Yeah.
Something like that.
No idea how much it cost. And
there weren't a lot of prices set today.
And time capsules have had horrible issues with blowing up in the past, so I'm probably going to avoid that just on historical means. Sorry, I don't forget. I rarely forgive.
Something else we did predict would be the launch of iRadio, which is now we know called iTunes Radio.
Dude.
But it was a little surprise.
Radio is an epic disaster for me, man. It's like, okay, they introduced their version of Pandora. Okay. I mean, that's
bad news for Pandora, right?
No, I mean, Pandora's multi-platform. They're on a million other platforms. I don't know. It just doesn't excite me at all. I mean, I want music downloaded so I can use it on an airplane offline. If it doesn't have an offline component, it just doesn't even register for me.
And they didn't talk about offline capability, but basically it is effectively just radio. You can go online, you can create playlists. There are some curated radio stations that you can select from, or you can make your own based on an artist or a song if you like, which sounds nice enough, but again, there's no offline functionality that we know of. And it's not something like Spotify in that you can pay for it and get rid of ads. If you are a current subscriber to iTunes Match, you'll get an ad-free experience, but we don't know about bit rates for streaming quality. We don't know about offline play. We don't know about playlist creation beyond just the creation of radio stations. It sounds like it's really just creating a radio station.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the bigger story to me is not that Apple did something like Pandora. The story to me is Apple apparently cannot get labels to buckle to whatever they're demanding for a radio subscription service, which, number one, that's bad news if you wanted an Apple subscription service. But more than that, if they can't get record labels to cave to their terms, the TV thing, to me now, is so far off. Because the record labels are desperate, and TV labels are not. So to me, if Apple can't convince the record labels to bend, they aren't even close to redefining the television
But here's
experience.
the thing. Is it that they can't get the record labels to play ball, or is it that they don't want to kill their own iTunes service by letting people play music for free that they could be paying money for? Because it's not just the record labels that Apple is effectively affecting here, or that Spotify is competing as. It's their own business. iTunes has made them millions and millions and billions of dollars.
Yeah, this is true.
And to go to a subscription-based service where you can do anything you want to without paying anything other than $10 a month, that could cost them a lot of money,
too. But look,
Apple
Apple has never shied away from cannibalizing their own business, and I think long-term, if they hook a lot of people up on a $10 a month service, I mean, look, people want to stream it. They don't want to buy singles anymore for $1.29. They got to get with the program at some point, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, it still seems like long-term, they'd be better to hook all those people on $10 a month, take whatever cut they can get, move forward to the future. I don't know. It just, to me, look, that's a huge conjecture, but it just doesn't foreshadow well for TV deals. If the radio deals, I mean, they have to know that people want this. They got up there and they're like, talk about all this radio stuff. You know that everybody's like, but where's the next part?
But this very definitely is something that Apple's going to use to try to drive more sales into iTunes, because everywhere throughout the radio experience is a buy this on iTunes link.
Yeah.
Every song, every radio station, very quick and easy, 2 clicks basically to buy a track. And you can add things to your wish list too very quickly from your radio station. So it's definitely an experience catered around the current iTunes experience of buying tracks.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
So that's just a small part of iOS 7. Which to me was today's biggest news.
Which we've left you salivating about long enough. Maybe we should talk about it.
Yeah, we should talk about iOS 7. So I guess
good enough.
Before I forget, AirDrop has been introduced.
Right.
And that actually teased me into another point. So iOS 7 was introduced, and it looks well enough. There's some aspects of it that to me look a lot like Windows Phone. They look a lot like Android. Obviously, the easy thing to do is just compare something to something that already exists. But there are some elements that are new-ish. But look, a lot of it looks like other OSs that we've seen. But the thing that bothers me the most about this is continuously they said there's design, there's beauty and simplicity. We wanted to strip it all down. One of their leads got up there and they said they redesigned Game Center as just a white background because we, quote, ran out of green felt. oh, ha, 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 the whole audience laughed. But what really happened is this guy just completely nuked every Apple engineer that ever put any time and effort into making Game Center what it used to be. And now it's just a white backdrop. Oh, that was so difficult to just put a white backdrop on. And so this happened like 3, 4, 5 times throughout the event where, you know, he made a joke about, oh, we ran out of stitching. So now the calendar app still sticks to the screen without stitching. Mean-spirited, meaningful attempts to...
Which is exactly the sort of thing that we've seen, you know, on Twitter and elsewhere about people reacting negatively to skeuomorphism, which is, you know, the overall effect of trying to give a realistic look to things.
Right.
But yeah, to see it up on stage too, and not just in the crowd, was a bit surprising. For sure.
It was remarkable to me just how pervasive the bitterness was. It just felt like whoever's working on iOS now just did it to spite the outgoing team that built iOS 5 and OS 6, and it's the wrong way to go about that. iOS 5 and 6 had plenty of pros. How many Apple users did they gain during the course of... they picked up hundreds of millions. It's just, you know, what I think should have happened was, look, this is our progress. We're going to try this new design out. We think it's beneficial for whatever reasons. Not just getting up there and saying we're doing it differently because we have serious beef with some people that left. It completely rubbed me the wrong way, and so for all the great elements of iOS 7, my only takeaway is, well, now I don't even like the attitudes of the people building it. Like, don't build something for spite. Build something because it's good. Build something because...
I think we should probably talk about those new features.
Yeah, what are the new features? It's there's just white backgrounds everywhere. Oh, it's new features. It's definitely
a much cleaner experience than before. In my opinion, it looks very, very good. Probably the biggest thing in my eye is easy multitasking. So double tap on the home button. You can now flip through pages much like WebOS, basically.
Like cards, with Palm.
Each application, you see the full screen as it would look. You flip between them, you tap the one you want, and then you're back there. You can also flip up from below to go to a new command center, which basically gives you the ability to quickly and easily toggle between airplane mode, turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. You can turn on a flashlight.
Completely non-customizable. Just going to throw that out there. Completely non-customizable.
But it's got this beautiful, kind of frosted glass look that you can sort of is semi-translucent, which looks very nice. We didn't see the customizable keyboards we hope that we might see today, but the keyboard is semi-translucent as well, so that's something.
Oh, amazing. This is what I'm talking about, though. It's like, are you serious? Well, we worked so hard on making the keyboard semi-translucent instead of opening up the API to let people with actual good product knowledge in keyboards build keyboards for our platform.
And that was one of the big things that they point out, that every app can be fully multitasking now, which is something that's commonplace on every other mobile operating system in the world at this point, pretty much. It was a little bit disappointing in terms of the functionality for sure. The look is, I think we can agree, it looks fantastic.
It looks good.
But again, it's not available now. It's being seeded to developers now, so there is a possibility that we'll see a little bit more, and perhaps there will be the option for things like third-party keyboards. But ultimately, if you were going to announce something like that, probably at the developer conference would be the place to do it. So if you've been hoping for SwiftKey on iOS like I have been,
look, I think Apple masked a lot of lack of functionality today with new design. I mean, look, with few exceptions, it's iOS 6, but with a different skin on it. You can still only put 4 app icons in the bottom of the iPhone. You can now toggle
pages
through
pages
through folders. Okay, wow. I mean, it's groundbreaking. It's like the core is still the same. They're like, oh, it's the biggest leap in iOS technology since I don't even know what. They made this point time and time again. Not really. It looks like a skinned version of iOS 6. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm cynical and I'm just rubbed the wrong way by how much they seemingly put all this work into just undoing what the past team did. That just seems like a complete waste of time to me. Why don't we just put our heads together to figure out stuff that Android and Windows Phone aren't doing? And they're like, AirDrop allows you to send to multiple people so you don't have to, quote, run around bumping each other's phones. It's not the point. The point is you can have a litany of Windows phones or Android phones as long as they have NFC as the standard and communicate with each other. That's the point. It's just I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like their take on it.
Probably the biggest piece of actual new functionality that we saw today was in Siri. Siri's getting a reboot, a new voices, male or female, take your pick, and French and German, I believe, as well. It can
Straight out the suburbs.
It can do more things like turn on your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. You can do Bing searches now, which is exciting. Look into Wikipedia, which is surprising. You couldn't do that before. Actually, I thought you could search in Wikipedia before, but apparently not.
Can you not do Wolfram Alpha anymore? They were like so hype about that.
It was actually pretty funny when they announced Bing. It was like this kind of curious reaction from the developers, like, Bing?
Yeah, because when they showed off a demo of iWork in a browser on Windows, he specifically went to Chrome over IE. So it's like, oh, well, that's because Google makes better products than Microsoft. And then they did the exact opposite on the search. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
iWork in the browser does look nice. You can do basically full-featured desktop experience in a browser. Again, something coming out later this year, so we don't know pricing or anything like that. Presumably, there'll be pricing involved. Presumably, if you've bought it on the desktop, you can use it for free in the web, I hope. But it is cross-platform, so now you could, in theory, do a keynote presentation from a PC if you want to, which is nice.
Yeah.
And I think we should probably, because we're getting jazz hands from our photographer here, so we should probably wrap things up.
I want to say as my closing statement, we didn't get to talk about the new OS X Mavericks a lot, but they really drilled down on pro-level features. What they showed off today was more advanced features, like more tabs, more abilities to swipe, more confusing things. That's what I was after.
Yeah.
They didn't dumb it down. In fact, they did exactly the opposite. They gave me more things to do. So I'm... As negative as I was on iOS 7, I really like what they've shown us so far on OS X. I love that they're catering towards the power users.
Just a quick rundown on the features. So you can have app napping, which should in theory give you better battery life. You've got tagging of files, so you can tag all of your files in a project the same way, and then you can very quickly get to them through File Explorer, not File Explorer, through Finder.
Finder, which has tabs.
You can have tabs in Finder now, which I think is probably my favorite new feature of Mavericks as well. And they're no longer naming after cats. They're going to be named after California locales, which is appropriate because we are here in a California locale. Yes. I guess it's probably a good way to end it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they went with OS X Mavericks. The next one will be OS X Dr. Dre.
I'm wondering how many point releases in OS X we're going to see. Will we see OS 10.20 at some point? Because he said this is going to be the naming scheme that gets them for another 10 years.
Oh, man.
10 years of OS X.
Look, it's going to be like the iPad. They were like, years. iPad 2, new iPad. It's just going to be OS X, new Mavericks, higher Maverick, middling Maverick.
It's a pretty good name, you got to say.
I mean, it's all right, but Top Gun's lawyers are coming after you. Boom. Now you got Samsung and Top Gun.
No
and
clearance
Tom
to strafe
Cruise.
the tower. All right, Mr. Murph, shall we wrap things up here at WWDC?
We should wrap it.
Thank you for joining me as ever, Mr. Murph.
Oh, of course. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, all of us, for joining. Thank you to Mr. Matt Crum behind the camera, as ever, for enabling us to be here today. And, we had a great time here in California, San Francisco. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage here. And, of course, from E3, which is also going on at the same time.
Big ups, E3, LA.
Again, I'm Tim Stevens, the editor-in-chief of Engadget.
I'm Darren Murph. I'm at Darren Murph on Twitter.
I'm at Tim_Stevens. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back for the next event in a city near you.